It has never happened before. For the first time ever today, the three secretive heads of Britain's intelligence services appeared openly together on live television to testify before Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee. Sir Ian Lobban, Director of GCHQ, Britain's answer to the NSA, MI6 Foreign Intelligence Chief Sir John Sawyers, and Andrew Parker, the head of domestic intelligence at MI5. The testimony confirmed a spike in terror threats this year, mostly because of the unchecked war in Syria, said the intelligence chiefs. But dominating the session, the intel chiefs' insistence that their work has in fact been compromised in the 5 months since Edward Snowden's NSA revelations.
The leaks from Snowden have been very damaging. They put our operations at risk. It is clear that our adversaries are rubbing their hands with glee. Al-Qaeda is lapping it up.
We've seen terrorist groups in the Middle East, in Afghanistan and elsewhere in South Asia discussing the revelations in specific terms, in terms of the communications packages that they use, the communications packages that they wish to move to.
Can you give us a guarantee today that you do not conduct operations which are out with the British legal framework?
Yes, I can give you that guarantee. I believe that is true. We are subject to the law, and I would also say I'm sure that's true of my sister agencies as well.
Now, Sir Malcolm Rifkind is a former Defence and Foreign Secretary of the UK. He's chairman of the committee that questioned the intelligence chiefs today. During a break in the testimony, I asked him whether their testimony was indeed sufficient and frank enough. Welcome to the programme. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Let me get straight to the heart of the matter. The intelligence chiefs told you that there was a gradual darkening of their global sources since the Snowden revelations, and that they have monitored in the last 5 months various organizations across the region discussing essentially how to avoid and react to what's been revealed by the Snowden leaks. Are you convinced by what you heard about that?
Well, it's what we feared would happen, and it's entirely logical. One's always known that although some terrorists are very stupid, there are a lot who are very clever. And we know that those who are very clever and very dangerous constantly try to identify what are the capabilities of the intelligence agencies and try to outstrip them by increasing their own security measures. So it shouldn't really surprise anyone. It's disturbing that there is hard evidence, but I can't say I was entirely surprised.
But you did press and you asked for specific instances.
Yes, and we were promised that that would be information they would be very happy to share with us when we have a private session, because obviously they will not wish to, in public session, go into too much detail, which itself could help the terrorists if they heard about it.
As a former Defence Secretary and Foreign Secretary, do you believe the security of Britain and, in some cases, its allies have been compromised?
Well, I'm not in a position to quantify it, but the fundamental question that I think we all have to ponder over is when you get newspapers choosing to publish official secrets, which they themselves believe can be published safely and without danger to national security, how do they know? How can they be certain? They may be doing it in good faith, but frankly, they do not have the experience to be certain of what they are doing. And what we heard today, as I said, didn't terribly surprise me, but it's something that I think newspapers and their editors should ponder over with regard to their future actions.
You did ask the question that everybody has been asking since these leaks by Edward Snowden about the NSA. You asked, why do the vast majority of people's communications have to be tapped in order to get a few evildoers? That is the big question. Do you feel that you got a satisfactory answer?
Well, I think the answers we got today, and it's also something which is already in the public domain, should be reassuring, because what in practice is happening is that these modern computers can process vast numbers of emails, but they discard over 99.9% of them, which have no links to terrorism or serious crime. And they can do that without any human eye ever having read any of these emails. So when the occasional argument is used that ordinary, respectable, law-abiding citizens are having their emails read. As was said today, and as I am aware from my own knowledge, that simply does not happen. It would be illegal. It would be a crime under British law if that was happening. And we have no reason to believe that it does happen, because once the computers identify the emails that they think could be relevant, then, if they don't already have it, the intelligence agencies need to get a warrant from our Secretary of State if they wish to read the content of any of these communications.
And you're convinced, and the intelligence chiefs were asked a direct question by one of the members of your committee, that they are acting within the bounds of the law. Are you convinced that that is the case?
Well, I think it's highly likely, to put it mildly, that they are, because what motive would they have for not doing so? You know, when criminals break the law, they're hoping to have financial gain, make a lot of money. That's what crime's all about. We're talking about intelligence agencies. The heads of these agencies are very senior public servants. What personal benefit do they get from breaking the law? They would be committing a crime. They would end up being prosecuted if it was found out. Why should they have a motive to do that? And therefore, I find it... obviously, an organisation might have an individual employee who has lower standards. Mr. Snowden is an example of that in an obvious way. But to say that the agencies as a whole knowingly break the law, I find that... I can't prove it never happens, but I find it inherently implausible on any rational basis.
So to that end, then, you even mentioned it yourself in the hearings today. You said, look, gentlemen, you've given a very fulsome answers. Why is it then that we can't figure out a way to convince the public of what's going on, keeping what needs to be secret, but sharing with the public so that they don't get suspicious when these kinds of revelations come out?
Well, I think what we do have to do in democratic societies is constantly press our intelligence agencies to make sure they're not being unnecessarily cautious. Obviously, they will be nervous or cautious if they're asked to say in public what their capabilities are. They are always worried that if they do that and it turns out to have been a mistake, then terrorism benefits, and that can't be in anyone's interests. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't constantly open up these questions and put to them, you know, how certain can you be? And one of the benefits of an intelligence committee such as the one I chair, and similar committee exists in the United States, is that when you have these discussions in private, then the intelligence agencies can open up in a lot more detail as to what they believe might be the risks if matters were publicized. And we, as parliamentarians, as politicians, we can also offer our own judgment as to whether their arguments are convincing or not.
So in the United States, the President has said there is going to be a review of the NSA. We don't know whether there's going to be any significant changes, any significant reining in of some of these tapping and eavesdropping intelligence gathering. Your committee, does that demand a review? Do you see any changes to the way intelligence is gathered after this committee?
Yeah, what we have said is that we intend to do quite a lot of work on two areas. First of all, whether the laws that were passed some years ago, whether in any respect they need modernizing or changing to fit modern circumstances, and that's going to be important. We also want to look at the debate between security and privacy. That's always the issue that has to be addressed, and be satisfied as to whether we have that balance right in the United Kingdom, or whether in some ways that needs a modification. So we will be taking evidence on that. Some of it will be secret evidence, which we will take in private, but we would expect there also to be public sessions, as we had today, at least in regard to some of the arguments that will be made.
And finally, a former head of GCHQ in an interview has said and has talked specifically about the relationship between the NSA, between GCHQ, various intelligence sharing. But he did also say that we have the brains, they have the money. Does that about sum it up?
Well, I heard that being said. I don't think he meant that literally. I have no doubt from my own meetings with people in the American intelligence community, there's one heck of a lot of brain there as well. But there's no doubt when it does come to money, the United States is in a league of its own. It's not just a superpower, it's a super-duper power.
Well, on that note, thank you very much indeed.